Hey guys, welcome to ArtosisCasts. Today we're going to do kind of a blast from the past. We have Disco here in the bottom right. He's a very good, well-known Protoss. I would put him a step below the guys that are like very close to getting an ASL. If he qualified for ASL, I'd be pretty surprised. He is a very high MMR, like 2600 MMR Protoss player. But, you know, just not quite at the level where we're like, okay, wait, he's going to make it, right? But still improving, a very strong player indeed. He is going up against Midas. If you don't know who Midas is, he was an SK Telecom Terran. He actually kind of has almost a tragic history where there was certainly points in time where he was probably the best player in the world. And he never ended up winning a Star League. And that's always kind of a crusher, right? Like 100% he was the best Terran versus Protoss player in the world for a good period of time. In fact, one of the most popular builds from back in 2004-ish, 2005-ish was called the Midas build. It was a Marine tank vulture push. But yeah, he was a very, very strong Terran player that didn't quite get the accomplishments that we thought he was going to get back in the day. But he's been pretty active lately. And, you know, when I saw him playing against a very high-ranked Protoss, I was like, you know what? This is a great one to kind of check out where he's at. Because I would love for Midas to kind of return to, like, really great form. He was it's hard to describe his style exactly because his prime was probably 2005, maybe, yeah, 2005-ish, right? Give or take 1 year. And like, people got so much better around 2007, 2008, 2009 is kind of where I look at modern StarCraft, like where that was, right? Like that kind of period of like 2008, 2009, where the players hit their real peaks back then before StarCraft 2 came out. So like, it's hard exactly to put the style of Midas down because everyone was like a little bit worse back then than they got later on, but he definitely mixed it up a lot, some good pressure plays and stuff, but we weren't into like the full-on macro Terrans that we have today, even though obviously we have great macro Terrans from those eras. Anyways, enough talking about that. We have a Nexus first cross spawn, the strongest build in the game. And this is a really, really greedy one. We'll see if he skips probes, but he's going for one gate with the Cybernetics core and the gas, and will add a second gate, but it's quite a bit later. No Zealot being made. He's scouted that Midas is cross spawn, so this is a very bad position for our Terran player. You know, we'll see what he does to try to fight back, but he doesn't even know that it's occurring right now, right? Like, yeah, he doesn't. Is he just not scouting? He's not scouting. What? Like, the probe went up here, came down, checked, went back here, went back, and is now going back. Midas didn't scout. Okay, so what we're looking at here now, not scouting as Terran is very weird. But you can do it. There's certain things that it does for you. Okay, first off, the probe came a little bit late, so it's less likely that a Zealot is on the way. Second, you know, just the fact that he came really late is kind of the big one. Second, your build gets more... what do you call it? More optimized, like, because you're not missing any mining, you can do things like make your factory a little bit quicker, get out that first unit a little bit quicker. When I first saw this, I was kind of assuming that what we would see would be like a quick siege tank, but instead it was a quick vulture with quick mines. In fact, no, like the add-on came before the vulture. So he's kind of optimized it in this very different way that we're not used to for this matchup right now. But he gets over here. Okay, Dragoon's going to push towards him. He's going to start laying some mines here. He is bringing up these Marines. This is honestly very, very weird. Now, Midas is ranked pretty high, and obviously, like I mentioned, you know, this is a good, like, a 2500, 2600 Protoss player. So, like, I mean, these guys are really, really strong players. What a strange looking game this is. He actually runs in with double Vulture, laying mines the entire time, and gets a few probes. Gets a Dragoon. Has mines out here. And all this without scouting. Wow. What a... I'm like really scratching my head right now because it's just so different from anything that I'm used to seeing. Huh. So now he's got all these mines containing... Okay, Academy, Armory. Siege tanks with siege mode. Huh. Okay, looking into Disco's base, he's going for a Robo into Stargate, so this should be a carrier build, a 2-base carrier. And actually throws a 3rd Nexus, so 3-base carrier, whatever. Very fast carrier, very, very fast carrier. All right, Vulture comes in, sees what's going on here. 2nd factory. I tell you, I'm really taken aback by the build order. It's really fascinating. I'm going to think about this a lot. But sorry, it's kind of it's throwing me off enough that I'm like really I'm going through so much in my mind. I'm like so excited. Anytime you see something that you really actually never see when all you do is do StarCraft for 25 years, it's pretty cool. It's a cool feeling, and like I just want to sit here and really flesh out what that was all about. But like optimizing the build in that way, I wonder how he would have held certain cheeses and whatnot. The fact that he got in and got some probes, like, I mean, he's behind a bit. He's down 8 probes right now. That's painful. And part of the reason why he's down 8, by the way, is because he just made 2 comsats that cost you 4. So really, we can call it like a net down 4 because it's like a choice that you make to, you know, to make the comsats, and you accept that you're losing 4 there. But really, like the cross spawn Nexus first, certainly the Protoss was ahead and still is ahead. But yeah, by the way, I'm kind of surprised he puts this here. Like, you may as well put this stuff all together, but maybe it just didn't fit somewhere. But carriers are starting. That +1 is almost halfway done. 2 more factories coming out. So a very old school style as well here from Midas. The fact that he's going into 4 ranged Goliaths. The Goliath build for TvP hasn't been popular in quite some time. And you do see it sometimes. Like, you can still... It's still a playable build. But it does get weak against some certain things. Now, if he catches this Observer, he's really on top of things. Oh, love to see it. Love to see it. So he puts the Goliath out. That was specifically to catch that, by the way. He assumed that an Observer should be coming. Anyways, yeah, that's like he's definitely on top of things. So one thing to mention is against a fast carrier build, he does have quick Goliath range, which is kind of nice. He's going to have quick +1, which is nice as well. He's going into 5 factories. He is not timed out a 2-1 upgrade rush, right? He doesn't have that starport already on the way. So he might go 1-1. This is 5 factory right now. I mean, you could add more factories and try to attack. It'd be a little bit difficult, though. You can see back at home, Disco adding more gates. He's gone up to 6 gateways. He has the double Stargate producing carriers. 2 are about to be out. 2 are weak. 4 is good. Like against 2, you can just kind of have a middling amount of Goliaths, right? Like against 2, you can kind of have like your initial 4 and maybe 2 SCVs there, and like you're kind of okay during the push, and it's not going to necessarily end the game. Against 4 Goliath or 4 carriers, you need a whole group of 12 Goliaths to really push that back. And then it gets exponentially harder as you get 5, 6, 7, 8 carriers. It gets kind of insane where you can have like 36 Goliaths and the carriers just continually make interceptors and fly away and stuff. Anyways, he does walk out here. An Observer is watching his every move as he lays mines. You know, it looks like he's starting to think about pushing across the entire map, maybe going for a push towards this 3rd. Really interesting play here from Midas, playing pretty darn aggressively. More Vultures coming as well. All right, getting into position. There is like a little bit of an idea about a counterattack, but this isn't very good. Like just the rallying units can kind of stop that. He is going to break in, and it seems like Disco's base is going to be in some trouble here. Now, 2 carriers come out. There's only 3 Goliaths here. That is a little bit low, right? Like, he is going to be able to work through that, but he's going to get, like, every probe. So while these die, I think you turn the tanks around very likely. No, is he going to go for an attack? Thing is, the carriers will eventually kill all this. So you don't want that all to die. But as you can see, even just 3 carriers here against 2 Goliaths kind of hold it for a bit. It takes him a little bit to kill those. So all those probes are dead. Definitely the economy kind of weak for Disco at the moment. He is starting another Nexus, by the way. And you can see these Dragoons that went for that counterattack, they're slowing him a little bit. Right? They're getting a few units, but they will be picked off as well. And now this feels pretty decent for Midas. If Midas goes nothing but Goliaths out of these factories and starts expanding, that's great. He definitely should expand, though. This is actually getting incredibly late, and he has the money for it. So definitely that's what we want to see out of Midas at this point, is throw down some command centers. Throw one here. You can try here if you want. You could go to another main base. Those are fine. But against carriers, you generally want to expand really, really regularly, right? Like sometimes people try to hit like timing pushes against them, and you can definitely do that. In fact, he's adding another factory. He's just going Goliath, so he's getting ready. But probably the most important thing, if you don't kill them immediately at the beginning of carriers, is getting those bases up, because you need a ton of income to fight against carriers, which are basically flying bases of death. Now, Citadel coming up. You know, generally with carrier rush builds, as opposed to just late game carriers, you know, there's different power spikes, right? The carrier number, of course, but generally it's either Dragoons or Dragoon Reaver into carrier. Then the next step is Zealot Legs with mass units. And then the final step is to get that Psystorm upgrade. So right now he is getting the Citadel. We should see the legs start very quickly with that as well. Midas setting up. Gonna try to push this base in once again. See if he can kill off some more probes. Killing that wall rather quickly. Looks like a Disco is going to go in a different direction. And, well, you know what? He's going to get the Nexus. Like, a very different looking game from Midas, I got to say. This is just not something I expected when opening up a Midas TvP. You know, he was known as the best Terran versus Protoss player in the world for a pretty sizable period, at least a year, I would say. Maybe even longer. My memory is a little bit hard to figure out exactly the length of time, but really considered the best TvP for a long time. But it's really fascinating what he's done here. Now, the counterattack coming in, this is all Goliaths being made. So the Goliaths don't fight that well against the Zealot Dragoon, but they do have the high ground. So they're doing all right. There's just enough Goliaths here to kind of push these back, but he is going to end up losing them, right? 8 Goliaths against 6 carriers, as I mentioned before. 12 against 4 is fine. This won't last. But you know what? He killed off a lot of units here, trying to get a few more probes as well. The Dragoons and Zealots still dealing some damage here from Midas also. And, well, he's going home with the tanks. Now, it's very low worker counts for both sides. Okay, that is going to be a little bit of an issue. You know, obviously it costs a lot of money to continually make all of these Goliaths, or to make non-stop interceptors, plus maxing out your army as Protoss, and both of them have had those economies hurt a bit. The third base does land here for Midas. Carrier's going for a little bit of a counterattack. Gonna harass. This is a great harassment spot, by the way. The carriers can sit in here, and they're very, very hard to hit. This is a pretty darn big army from Midas, though. I will definitely give that to him. Good amount of siege tanks. That's one thing he's done very well this game. He's retained his siege tank count very, very well. If you lose a lot of siege tanks against carriers, that will actually end up making you lose the game, because you won't be able to fight the ground army. You need to maintain your tanks and spend your Goliaths, right? The Goliaths are kind of the things that are actually fighting, and the tanks are just adding damage and making sure that ground units don't overwhelm your Goliaths. So he sieges up here. I like the scans. I like getting rid of the observers. Really good stuff. Moving forward, trying to pick off this carrier. Doesn't quite get it, but gets some interceptors in there. Carriers trying to go home with all those units. 8 carriers right now. We're really getting up into the scary numbers. In fact, there's 9. 9 carriers at the moment. You know, as you start getting closer and closer to a full group of carriers, it becomes like really insane, the amount of damage that they can do. The damage output of carriers is incredibly, incredibly high. You know, every attack upgrade gives +8 attack. It's pretty wild. Of course, that is part of the reason why upgrades are so important for Terran. Here, we don't have +2 started yet, so that's a little bit of an issue. He might get a pick on one of those. Ooh, 21 health. 1 Goliath hit from death there on 1 carrier. That's rough. But he will maintain that, and it'll still put out its full damage. Sieging up here, the Dragoons can't really move forward. Midas just battling these carriers back. There is a counterattack of Dragoons going up towards that 3rd base location. Midas actually with a pretty reasonable bank. Hasn't really added more factories here either. Definitely needs to get on top of that, though. And he's going to go ahead and GG as the Dragoons hit. You know, he's not really able to clear these Dragoons with the Goliaths that he's making. And he's being whittled down here as well. So it does make sense. I do want to just take a moment and talk about the ideas, because I thought about it the entire game as well while I'm commentating, about the way that Midas played this game, right? So he didn't actually scout for a long time. Here, watch. We're going to put only his vision on. I'm just going to play it real fast. Let's see when he scouted, man. That was his first scout, was going over here after his command center. So he started his command center and sent this out. But he got the factory very, very quickly, right? Like, he had a very well optimized economy. He just did not scout very much. So it's like, if a Zealot is coming, the probe shows up very quickly almost always, okay? So that didn't occur. He got the quicker add-on, and his scout was two-pronged. It was an SCV going in this direction and the Marines and Vultures going to the south, right? And here's the thing, too. You don't have to scout into the main base if you're playing like this. Like, he happened to here. But based on that timing, the Protoss Nexus, it's like a 1 base all-in if they don't have a Nexus by 4 minutes and 20 seconds, right? And by 4 minutes is actually already pretty late. But anyway, I'm getting a bit too technical. I want to mention this one thing, right? So he comes down and does this little push. And there's not a lot of scouting after that, right? He lays his mines. He sees the 3rd. So it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty quick 3rd. He massed units, and he's just doing general things that kind of are catch-alls. So, like, for instance, it's never terrible to go 5 factory, and that's what he did here. But there obviously was a huge lack of scouting. He didn't really know completely what was going on, but I think that there were some really intelligent things that Midas did here, some really interesting things that maybe we'll see something like this catch on, where you're scouting a little bit less and catching everything a little bit more. Anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Kind of a fun one for me personally, seeing how Midas is playing nowadays. And thank you for watching.